Spiritual Ministration, Chapter 3, Tapas of the Four Directions, Part 1. Balayogi bitten by cobra. In December 1949, approximately 15 days after he had shifted to the burial ground, the Balayogi was proceeding to the canal for his daily midnight bath, when a deadly black cobra, which was lying across his path, reared up and bit him viciously on his leg. Blood had started dripping from the wound, but the Balayogi ignored it, took his bath and returned to his seat in the burial ground and went back into Samadhi. To begin with, the Balayogi showed total unconcern and paid no heed to the snake bite. However, this venom injected by the serpent was bound to react on the body, and so it happened. At first there was a discoloration of the skin, causing blotches to appear all over the body. Soon thereafter, gangrene set in, as a result of which the body started emanating a foul smell. The pain and discomfort that the Balayogi had to suffer on account of all this could well be imagined. Coming on top of all his other troubles, the physical suffering caused by the snake bite proved to be the last straw. Discouraged and frustrated by all that he had endured and was enduring, he decided to give up his yogic practices and return home. In any case, it had never been his intention or ambition to tread the yogic path. The tapas he was presently undergoing was at the behest of the Jangam Vaiseshadri, whom he had come to regard as his guru. He now felt that the yogic way of life he was following was not worth all the trouble. It was better to return home and lead a normal life. With such thoughts running through his mind, the Balayogi left his seat and started off for his home. Now the fact was that without any previous resolve on his part, Satyaraju had been made to enter the Tapomarg. Hence it could hardly be expected that he would be left to his discretion to leave it off at his own will. And so it happened. As the Balayogi neared a banyan tree which stood on the path leading to his home, he suddenly espied the Jangam Vaiseshadri, his guru, standing under the tree barring his way. Seeing his guru, the Balayogi did namaskar to him. With a faint smile, the guru asked the boy where he was going. "I am going home," said the Balayogi. "Why?" asked the guru. Thereupon the Balayogi recounted all the woes and troubles he had to endure ever since he started his yogic practices. He told him all the suffering he was undergoing on account of the snake bite, and ended up saying that he found it impossible to continue his tapas and was going home. The guru heard him out in silence, and thereafter continued looking at the boy for some time. When he finally spoke, he told his young disciple to go back and directed him not to abandon the yogic path under any circumstance. He then imparted to the Balayogi the Panchakshari mantra and told him to repeat it daily. He assured the Balayogi that the action of this mantra would relieve him of the suffering caused by the snake bite, and he would soon be restored to normal health. In obedience to his guru's wishes, the Balayogi returned to his seat in the burial ground. He felt somewhat abashed at the passing weakness which had induced him to leave for his home, and he resolved then and there that he would prefer to die following the yogic path rather than be called a yoga brashta, or one who has failed in the path of yoga. In order to stiffen his resolve for the future, he took a solemn vow never to swerve from the path shown by his guru. Enthused afresh by the blessings of his guru and with firm resolve, the Balayogi started chanting the Panchakshari mantra. He soon passed into deep samadhi, and as his guru predicted, the repetition of the mantra neutralized the effects of the poison and restored him to his former health. Collector and Tehsildar come for darshan. The news that the Balayogi of Adivarapupeta had survived the inevitably fatal bite of a deadly cobra spread far and wide, and soon reached the ears of Sri Palasundaram Pillai, the then collector of the East Godavari district. Pillai was a deep religious man, and this news, coupled with other news that he had been hearing about the Balayogi, awoke in him the desire to have darshan of this young saint. He had also learned that the Balayogi remained absorbed in samadhi for almost the entire 24 hours, and that he only emerged from his samadhi around midnight, when he took his daily bath and partook some light nourishment that may have been placed there for him. Accordingly, sometime in January 1950, the collector, accompanied by his personal assistant, Sri T.V. Satyanarayan Rao, and the Tehsildar of Ramachandrapuram, Sri Garga Narasimha Murthy, came one day at midnight to the burial ground for the Balayogi's darshan. No one had been informed of this visit. The Balayogi had just then emerged from samadhi, so they were able to converse with him. Before taking his leave, the collector asked the Balayogi if there was anything he could do for him, as it was customary to sit on a deer skin or a tiger skin while doing tapas. The Balayogi asked the collector to send a tiger skin for his use. By a fortunate coincidence, a poacher had been apprehended a few days earlier and a tiger skin found in his possession at the time of his arrest, and that had been confiscated from him. This was now lying in the collectorate. The collector sent for this tiger skin the very next day through Narasimha Murthy, the Tehsildar. When Narasimha Murthy came to the burial ground to deliver the tiger skin, he found that the ground in which the Balayogi sat was damp. It became obvious to him that if the tiger skin were to be spread on the damp ground, it would soon start rotting and emanating a foul odor. In order to obviate this, he had a wooden platform constructed for the Balayogi to sit on, and on this he spread the tiger skin. He also got a pandal, or improvised hut of palmyra leaves, built to cover the wooden platform. The elevated seat provided by the wooden platform relieved the Balayogi from the torments of rodents, ants, and insects to a greater extent, and he was now able to continue his tapas in relatively greater comfort. Construction of Dhyana Mandir. Soon after his first darshan of the Balayogi, Balasundaram Pillai, the collector, was posted out. Prior to his departure, he came once again for darshan. As on the previous occasion, his personal assistant and the Tehsildar accompanied him. T.V. Satyanarayan Rao, the PA, was by now deeply impressed by the young yogi, and before leaving the next day, he discussed with Narasimha Murthy a proposal to construct a Dhyana Mandir for the Balayogi's use. The land adjoining the burial ground belonged to the Zamindar of Bella village, Vatakuta Pattabhiraman by name. When the Tehsildar and the PA discussed the matter with this Zamindar, he readily consented to the construction of the proposed Dhyana Mandir on his land. In the meantime, the Balayogi continued his tapas in the improvised hut that had been constructed in the burial ground with undiminished intensity. As he sat motionless in samadhi day after day for almost the entire period of 24 hours, his hands and legs became stiff and wooden, and he soon lost control of them. By the time he completed his first year tapas around July to August 1950, he found it impossible to even move from his seat. In order to enable him to perform his daily ablutions, a bucket of water had to be brought and placed outside his hut. With great difficulty and with the exercise of immense willpower and determination, he would barely manage to drag himself to where the bucket was placed and have his bath. He would then return to his seat and resume his samadhi. Notwithstanding all his suffering, he carried on with his tapas undeterred. At around October 1950, the Dhyana Mandir was ready, and the Balayogi was bodily lifted and carried to his new abode. At about the same time, a person named Ramakrishna Reddy had a well dug near the newly constructed Dhyana Mandir. This well not only catered to the needs of the Balayogi, but also served to provide pure drinking water for the rest of the village. By now, Narasimha Murthy, the Tehsildar, had voluntarily assumed the responsibility of looking after the needs of the Balayogi. In order to ensure that the Balayogi was not disturbed during his tapas, Narasimha Murthy directed that the door of the Dhyana Mandir would henceforth be closed and locked. The key of the lock was kept with his mother Parvatama. From now on, he also sent regular donations of money to Mother Parvatama to meet the cost of buying fruits and milk for the Bali Yogi. These donations were continued by him for the entire period of the Bali Yogi's tapas and even after. We are told that Narasimha Murthy was the only person who could arouse the Bali Yogi from Samadhi. All he had to do was gently tap the Bali Yogi anywhere on his person, and it was enough to bring the yogi back to normal consciousness. It goes without saying that Narasimha Murthy only did this when it became imperative and unavoidable. Visit of Tapasviji Maharaj. During this period, there lived a saint popularly known amongst his followers and admirers as Tapasviji Maharaj. This yogi was remarkable in many ways. He was born in the royal family of the erstwhile Patiala state. After a full life of action and adventure, the prince took to sannyas in his 50th year and entered the Udasi sect of sannyasins with the monastic name of Vishnudham. He practiced rigorous spiritual disciplines for a long time under the guidance of various gurus. Once, when he was on a visit to Parashuram Kund in Assam, he met a sadhu who claimed that he had learnt the almost forgotten secret of Kayakalpa, the art of rejuvenating the human body, but that he had not yet tried it out on anybody. Tapasviji, who was by now nearing his 90th year and had started suffering from the debility of old age, volunteered to submit to this treatment. The course of treatment was to last a period of 3 months. After approximately 21 days of starting this treatment, Tapasviji passed into a comatose state, and when he recovered from his coma sometime toward the end of the 3-month period, he found to his astonishment that he had been restored to the same state of health and youthful vigor he had enjoyed as a young man of 30. Tapasviji underwent the Kayakalpa treatment twice more, once at the age of 120 years and the second time at the age of 150 years. Eventually, he entered Mahasamadhi in Jhansi on 12th October 1955 at the ripe old age of 187 years. During his long life, Tapasviji successfully undertook a number of spiritual austerities, including the Kadeshwari Tapas and the Panchagni Tapas. It was in recognition of these spiritual accomplishments that he had come to be known as Tapasviji Maharaj by his devotees. Only a brief life sketch of Tapasviji Maharaj has been given here. Those interested in more details about his life are advised to read his biography, The Life of Tapasviji Maharaj by Sri T.S. Anantamurthy. In January 1951, Tapasviji Maharaj happened to come on a visit to Vishnu Sevashram, located on the Pitapuram road in Kakinada. There he heard about the Balayogi of Adivarapupeta and expressed a desire to meet him. Consequently, in this first week of January 1951, Tapasviji Maharaj, accompanied by Bulusu Sambamurthy, the then Speaker of the Madras Legislative Assembly, came to Adivarapupeta from Kakinada and had special darshan of the Balayogi. At the time of their visit, the Balayogi was in deep samadhi, and hence Tapasviji could not converse with him. Nevertheless, Tapasviji Maharaj immediately realized the high spiritual status of the Balayogi. He sent for some flowers and devotedly placed them at the feet of the Balayogi, and instructed his companions to do the same. Deeply impressed by this first darshan, Tapasviji Maharaj came again on a number of subsequent visits, but it so happened that every time he came, he found the Balayogi immersed in samadhi. On one such occasion, Tapasviji sat in front of the Balayogi and went into dhyana to find out the antecedents of the yogi. On emerging from dhyana, he informed his companions that the Balayogi was a Siddha Purush who had reincarnated himself of his own free will for the spiritual regeneration of mankind. He further told them that in one of his former incarnations, the Balayogi had been born as Sri Chandra, the son of Guru Nanak and the founder of the Udasi sect of sannyasis. In that birth, he, Tapasvi Maharaj, had been one of Sri Chandra's disciples. The companions of Tapasvi Maharaj were naturally awestruck and filled with wonder when they were told this facts by the venerable saint. One day Mother Parvatama informed the Balayogi about the frequent visits of Tapasviji Maharaj and his keen desire to meet him. The Balayogi readily agreed to this meeting, and the news was conveyed to Tapasviji Maharaj at Kakinada. Tapasviji Maharaj came the very next day, and this time when he arrived, the Balayogi was not in Samadhi. When Tapasviji Maharaj entered the Dhyana Mandir, the Balayogi did namaskar with folded hands. In fact, so far the Balayogi had continued to follow the customary practice of greeting all his elders by doing namaskar to them. But when he greeted Tapasviji in this manner, the saint reverently told the Balayogi, "You are a Mahatma, whereas I am only an ordinary sadhu. You must not do namaskar to me. In fact, you must not do namaskar to anybody in the future." From that day, the Balayogi discontinued the practice of greeting his elders by doing namaskar. Tapasviji then sat on the wooden platform facing the Balayogi and had a heart-to-heart chat with him. Among other things, he told the Balayogi that he had met a number of Tapasvis in the Himalayas who were engaged in similar tapas as the Balayogi, and that all of them took some form of regular nourishment, albeit in limited quantities. He therefore advised the Balayogi to take a measured quantity of milk every day. If he did not do so, and if he continued to starve himself as he was doing at present, it was very likely that his body would perish for want of nourishment within the next 15 to 20 days. Before leaving, Tapasviji had bought a cow and presented it to Mother Parvatama so she could have an assured supply of milk for the Balayogi. Later, at a public meeting held in his honor at Kakinada, Tapasviji Maharaj extolled the spiritual status of the Balayogi of Adivarapupeta in highly laudatory terms, and also informed his audience that the Balayogi had been his guru in a previous incarnation. Such eulogy from a deeply venerated saint like Tapasviji Maharaj naturally raised the Balayogi in the esteem of the people in the area, and they began to flock to Adivarapupeta in greater numbers for his darshan. Sometime later that year, 1951, the Balayogi was suddenly afflicted with a burning sensation all over his body. The agony became unbearable, and although he clenched his teeth and made a determined effort to retain mastery over his emotions, tears began to involuntarily stream from his eyes. While he was thus writhing and weeping in pain, he passed into Samadhi. Though he was now unconscious of the intense pain, his body continued to burn and became hot to the touch as though it was scorched from within. At the same time, a foul smell began to emanate from it. At this time, Tapasviji Maharaj was residing at the ashram in the Nandi Hills near Bangalore. He saw the plight of the Balayogi in his dhyana and immediately left by train for Kakinada with a bottle of medicated oil he himself had prepared. From Kakinada he came straight to the Dhyana Mandir and with his own hands applied the oil he had brought to the Balayogi's body. The application of this oil immediately relieved the burning sensation, and the bad smell emanating from the body also disappeared. Tapasviji later explained that someone out of hatred or jealousy had practiced black magic on the Balayogi, and the burning sensation and smell were caused by that. That apart, as the Balayogi used to sit in almost continuous samadhi with his palms joined and his fingers interlocked, they had gradually become stiff and rigid, and eventually they got locked in that position. With the application of the oil brought by Tapasviji Maharaj, a certain degree of suppleness and flexibility was restored to the palms of his hands, and he was eventually able to separate them, though he still had no control over his limbs. Tapasviji Maharaj again visited the Balayogi in the month of October 1952. On this visit, he offered to impart the Surya Upasana mantra to the Balayogi, and the Balayogi readily agreed. Accordingly, on the Kartika Purnima of the year 1952, Tapasviji Maharaj initiated the Balayogi in this mantra. During the same period, the Balayogi's divine guru appeared in one of his periodic visitations. The Balayogi informed him of what happened, and the guru approved of his doing japa of the Surya mantra, but told him that the mantra imparted by Tapasviji was incomplete. He then initiated him into the full and proper mantra. When the Balayogi next met Tapasviji Maharaj, he informed him of this error in omission and in imparting the Surya mantra, and Tapasviji readily admitted his error. From then on, the Bala Yogi started doing the japa of the Surya mantra daily for 2 hours, and the rest of the time he spent in his normal tapas. The Dhyana Mandir, which had been constructed for the Bala Yogi, was a small single-room structure measuring 12 by 12 feet. It had no windows or ventilators, as the door was kept locked in order to prevent disturbance. It became very hot and stuffy inside the room. During the summer months particularly, the heat inside was almost unbearable. Sri Gargar Narasimhamurthy discussed this problem one day with Tapasviji Maharaj and asked him what should be done about it. Tapasviji suggested that a gopuram be built on top of the Dhyana Mandir. In accordance with Tapasviji's directions, a gopuram was constructed by Seshagiri Rao, an engineer who happened to be one of his disciples. The gopuram was completed on the day of Mahashivratri of 1953, and thereafter the effects of the heat caused by the burning rays of the sun were greatly reduced inside the Dhyana Mandir. Siddhi and Sakshatkara. The divine Guru, whom the Bala Yogi continued to regard as a Sadguru of the Jangam Devar sect, up to almost the very end of his tapas, used to visit his disciple once in every 3-4 months, sometimes sooner, in case the particular necessity arose. The main purpose of these visits was to give fresh directions for the continuance of the tapas, or to remove any difficulties or obstacles that may crop up from time to time, or to infuse fresh courage and enthusiasm into the young disciple whenever he felt disheartened or his resolve wavered. As had been mentioned earlier, around July-August 1950, he had barely completed 1 year of his tapas. The Bala Yogi had lost control over his limbs, as a result of which he found it impossible to attend to even the basic minimum requirements of taking nourishment or having a bath or attending to his bodily functions. The Bala Yogi endured this crippling handicap for 3 long years, but sometime in June 1953 got sick and tired of it all, so to speak, went on strike. He stopped his daily spiritual practices and discontinued his samadhi and just sat around in a dejected mood. Sure enough, this brought the divine Guru promptly onto the scene, and even though he must have known what was irking the boy, he asked in a teasing mood what was troubling him now. The Bala Yogi seized on this opportunity to give vent to all his frustrations and told the Guru of the difficulties he was facing on account of his incapacitated limbs. As usual, the Guru smiled benignly and ran his hands over the arms and legs of his disciple. Lo and behold, no sooner had he done that than the limbs, which had been virtually crippled for almost 3 years, were now whole again and once more perfectly under control. The Bala Yogi found to his relief that he could move about once again and could attend to his basic needs without the requirement of assistance. Whereas the rest of his limbs became normal, the fingers of his hands continued to remain bent, as over the years the flesh of the joints had grown into each other in such a way that they had become permanently bent and remain thus to this day. The Bala Yogi now resumed his tapas with fresh vigor. Around the end of September, beginning of October 1953, he went into deep Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This Samadhi became continuous, and even the short break that he used to take every day at midnight for his daily bath and refreshment was dispensed with. The Bala Yogi remained thus in continuous Samadhi for 1 whole month. On the night of Wednesday, the 28th of October 1953, he was aroused from his deep absorption by a tap on his leg. As he slowly returned to consciousness, he became aware of a bright effulgence of intense luminosity, illuminating the entire Dhyana Mandir. He gradually began to perceive that this effulgence was emanating from a divine presence, but it was so intense that he found it difficult to look in that direction. Then, as his eyes got accustomed to the light, he beheld, standing before him, the snow-white and divinely beautiful form of Shankara Bhagavan. The Bala Yogi's whole being thrilled at that wonderful vision, and his heart overflowed with joy. Though thus enraptured, the Balayogi was nevertheless perplexed as to the identity of this obviously divine person, because he had never seen nor heard of anyone like him before. He intuitively felt within his heart that the person standing before him was none other than the great god Shankara, but in order to confirm whether his intuition was correct or not, he asked the divine being who he was. Maheshwara gave an amused smile and said, "They call me Shankar Mahadev." Lord Shiva then expressed appreciation of the resolute manner in which the Balayogi had carried out his tapas, and asked him if he required anything or whether he wanted to ask for any boon. The Balayogi replied that he wanted nothing, nor did he wish to solicit any boon. Shankara Bhagavan then sat on the wooden platform opposite the Balayogi and conversed with him for some time. Finally, telling him that his guru would come and direct him what to do next, Shankara Bhagavan then disappeared. The Balayogi spent the rest of the night quietly in ecstatic contemplation of the divine vision that had been vouchsafed to him. This Sakshatkara, or realization of his Ishtadeva, established the Balayogi as a Siddha Purush, realized soul, and marked the culmination of the first phase of his tapas.